The Greek government says rail traffic will resume gradually from next week, more than 3 weeks after the deadliest train crash in Greece's history. 57 people were killed when a passenger train and a freight train collided head-on at the end of February. Louisa Pilbeam reports.
57 people died here, many of them teenagers and young people with their lives ahead of them, in what was the worst train crash Greece has ever seen. How could this happen? The question bringing thousands of people onto the streets of Greece. Among the protests, this in Athens, 12,000 people angry and demanding this never happens again on the country's railways. They're afraid of a government cover-up and say the country's rail infrastructure is old and dangerous. A week ago, these protests in the capital turned violent, Greek police using tear gas. Passenger and freight services on the route linking Athens and the northern city of Thessaloniki have been halted since the crash between the passenger train and freight train on the same piece of track 2 weeks ago. The Transport Minister has confirmed the route will reopen gradually next week. 4 railway officials have been charged over the disaster, but more protests are planned. On Thursday, flights to and from Greek airports will be grounded as air traffic controllers join a 24-hour nationwide strike over the crash, which many feel was a disaster waiting to happen. Louisa Pilbeam, BBC News.
One of the most powerful storms on record has brought widespread flooding and landslides to southern Malawi and is now known to have claimed the lives of at least 190 people. Rescue and relief efforts are being hampered by the continuing rain in the wake of Tropical Storm Freddy. And now, according to the Red Cross, more than 20,000 people have been made homeless there or displaced in other ways. In an unusual weather pattern, it is the second time in a month that Storm Freddy has struck this part of southern Africa, previously hitting Mozambique and Madagascar before reaching Malawi. Our Africa correspondent Andrew Harding has more details.
This is southern Malawi. Whole neighbourhoods have been swept down hillsides, washed away by the storm that won't stop.
There are plenty of houses, but they are all gone.
Here in Blantyre, Malawi, grieving relatives queue outside hospitals, waiting to identify the dead. Rescue workers, already grappling with a cholera outbreak, are entirely overwhelmed. Cyclone Freddy first hit mainland Africa last month, but instead of petering out as expected, it swerved back out to sea, picked up more strength, then headed back to shore, tearing through one of the poorest corners of the continent.
In the hospital where I am speaking from at the moment, they've had around 119 deaths, at least half of those of children. And the residents in where the mudslide was said that there were an awful lot more people buried in the mud. So I think that this is going to get worse.
Right now, this region needs urgent help. Tens of thousands of people are homeless, and the full extent of the destruction caused by the relentless Cyclone Freddy is not yet clear. Andrew Harding, BBC News, South Africa.
At least 59 migrants have drowned after their boat broke up in rough seas and sank off the southern coast of Italy, including a number of children. The boat was said to be overloaded with close to 150 people. It's thought the vessel left Izmir in eastern Turkey 3 days ago. Those who survived came ashore near the town of Crotone on the Calabrian coast and are being helped by the Red Cross. John Donison has the latest.
Overnight, another tragedy in the Mediterranean. By daylight, this was all that was left of the migrant boat that broke up in rough seas just off the Calabrian coast. Rescue workers struggled in the conditions to recover bodies from the water. It's thought around 150 people were on board. Dozens, including a baby, are known to have drowned. The regional governor visited the scene.
Calabria is a region that welcomes people. Last year we welcomed 18,000 migrants, but we can't be abandoned by the rest of Europe. This type of tragedy should have been avoided, not lived how we're having to live it today and how we will live it again in the future.
And reacting to today's loss of life, the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said altogether EU countries must redouble their efforts to tackle the migration crisis in the central Mediterranean. Around 80 people were brought ashore alive, among them migrants from Iran, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Despite the dangers, Italy is one of the main landing points for people trying to reach Europe in small boats. Almost 12,000 migrants have already arrived by sea in Italy this year. In 2022, more than 105,000 successfully made the crossing, with over 1,300 dead or missing. Although high, those numbers are way down on the 2016 peak, when there were over 180,000 arrivals by sea. The government blames people traffickers and has pledged to stop the boats. At the Vatican, Pope Francis expressed his sorrow for the latest loss of lives, which he said included many children. He said he was praying for the dead, the missing, and those who survived. And those survivors, like hundreds of thousands before them, face an uncertain future. Under the white sheets behind them, those who didn't make it. John Donnison, BBC News.